Hello hobbyists. I don't know if this is everything I ordered. We'll find out. I'll just continue the video on later. But ARROWMAX, I guess, makes hobby related tools, and so this is supposed to be their drill. It's really nice packaging. It's like something you want to give away to someone for the holidays. It's definitely very classy packaging. It's very similar to like Display. So let's see. We have some German stuff here. Maybe that's where they're from. I don't know. It's got FCC CE approval, so hopefully it won't just spontaneously explode on us. And let me open this box up. Although, truthfully, I'm not going to keep this packaging. Yeah, it does. As nice as this packaging is, it does mean that I bought this packaging, and so it's just a really fancy box that I had to pay for. But again, if you're going to give it as a gift, you won't look like a cheapskate. Look at this, even the inside has nice foam in it. It's really nice. It's like jewelry packaging or something. Okay, so this actually does have everything I want. I didn't know if this thing would be in here. So you can buy this, you can just buy the drill itself, and it looks very small. Or you can buy it with this stand, but they don't sell. Well, you can buy the stand separately, but it costs so much, you're just better off buying the whole package. And then this is the vise, which I don't know if it can clamp to these two holes, but it's the same brand, so I'm hoping there's some sort of logic behind here. Again, there's some sort of German address and stuff. So, and again, very nice packaging. This one is not as nice because it's just a thin cardboard, so I didn't have to pay for that. Oh, but then it's a cardboard box protecting a cardboard box. More branding on this cardboard. And then we have a bag in here, some sort of separator, and then a miniature vise. You need to clamp your products. It's so small. I thought it would be bigger, but you know, it's a hobby. This is a hobby drill set, not a real industrial drill set. If for some reason you buy this used, you lose your instruction manual. Let me get this close, and you can pause the video and read this thing here. Boy, it's kind of hard because it's all going vertically. Over here. I'm going to just try to get the whole page, but I don't think you're going to be able to read all of it at once, right? It's such a big piece of paper. So that could have been better. I feel like if it was landscape, right, I could just do this, but it's not, so that could have been better. And then the other side is in German. Okay, so one would assume it's a German company. So it turns out this is one page after all. I need to decipher this. And so it takes 1 hour and 20 minutes to charge, but it'll run for 80 minutes after that. Oh, I'm sorry, 1 hour and 20 minutes to charge and 3 hours of use after that, so that's good. It should stand by for 90 days, so that's impressive as well. It's saying the bits are only 0.03 millimeters off in any sort of concentricity, so you know the thing isn't warped very much. Do 500 up to 900 RPM, and then it will spin in reverse mode as well. And it's an organic LED, and the thing has a 32-bit processor. That's kind of crazy that a drill has a processor in it, but it does. So then this is the second page. I should have figured that out. Maybe I'll edit the video. Okay, so let's do some basic measuring and open this thing up. So now this thing, I guess, as you can buy it by itself, this has this thing. Press on top to release. 3 Newton meters of maximum torque. IF Design Award. So push. Okay, yeah, that works well. There's a little protective thing there for that window. Oddly, there's nothing to push it out there, so it only comes out a little bit, but then gravity will take over. So this thing is actually aluminum. It's classy. It's sandblasted aluminum with a plastic insert, and way down there, if I get the that's the mechanism that pushes it up and down. You can see these bits are kind of falling out already. Or I don't know why they're at an angle. Is there a magnet in here? Yeah, I don't know. They're definitely easy to grab because you can just grab the tip with your finger. Oh yeah, there is a magnet there. But I do think they're supposed to probably rest down here. I think they may have shifted during shipping. But you can see there's a little collar on the drill bit itself telling you what size it is. This is a 1.2 millimeter, right? So that's nice. Yeah, but maybe that magnet should have been at the very end instead of at the middle, because this is kind of annoying having to put these things back like this, right? It wants to go there. That magnet should have been shifted down. All right, well anyways, so you get 0.6, 0.8, 1, 1, 2, 1, 4, so 0.2 increments on this side, and then like 1, 5, 6, 8, 2, and ultimately 2.2. That's kind of a random size, 2.2, but all right. And then we can push out the thing through the back. There's a little bit of a tab holding that in place. You could actually get more drill bits and put them on the back side. So I think you can they probably sell the drill bits separately as well, because it's going to be really easy to break those really thin ones. Okay, so I should put this back before I do break them. So let us weigh this drill as it is. 60 grams, and this is so much smaller than I thought it would be, which is good for hobbying and stuff like that. I'll use this one. The length here, I'm sure it's published on the listing, but this, why is that weird? It's around 137 millimeters, and then the squareness is 15 millimeters or so. With this button, 15.5. So it's square, I think, for a reason, so it doesn't roll away on you too much. It still rolls, but it'll eventually stop. So because it is rounded on the corners, it does feel comfortable. It's very similar to like a marker. It's pretty much the dimensions of a marker. In fact, here's like a Sharpie. It's a little bit thicker than a Sharpie. Here's a paint pen. It's around the same diameter as a paint pen. So there's a Type-C charge thing there. Let's see what happens when we charge it. I don't see a cable in this box. Maybe it's underneath this tray. Alright, so there's that organic LED, and it's animating the charge process. Look at that, that's pretty cool. It's not only rising, but it has like a line going across it. It reminds me of like old movies like Tron, the first Tron, that kind of thing. Alright, the question is, will it turn on while it's charging? Let me hit focus. It will not. I think that's logical. I think a lot of electronics do that. Alright, so there's a branding there. It's inset. It's a nice raised lettering with some silver on it or chrome. There's also, I don't know if those are LEDs in here. I think an LED there. I don't know if, yeah, I guess there's probably 4 LEDs. You can see the chuck itself. The collet is brass. And the chuck here is probably aluminum. Nice knurling for grip. And then the body is stainless steel, or maybe it's chromed steel or something like that. I don't know if you can buy different size chucks. So that also leads to the question, what size bits are these? I think it says in the listing what diameter bits these are, but I'll just measure one just for a good measure. 2.2 millimeter shafts on these things. Alright, so while that's charging, why don't we go and open up and mess with the stand. And there is no USB cable. I'm actually okay with that because I have so many. And USB cables are so cheap. And the free ones you get with a lot of stuff, they're just garbage anyhow. Oh, look at this. And I'm wrong again. So there is a USB cable. Let's see. Now I have 601 of these things. Yeah, that's probably a 1/2 meter cable if I had to guess. Yeah, this is the Type A on one side. Alright, so now under here, I think these are to put that stand together. And it comes with a tool. Alright, so hold on. I get some scissors. It's just easier. And then this. That's for the vise. We'll get to that later. Alright, got the little thread lock. You don't want the thing vibrating loose. So the tool, oh, if for some reason you should lose this tool, it is a 2mm hex. I'll just put a little thread lock on this thing here. So that's, you can see the bottom is all milled out for lightweight, and also the magnets on the bottom side. And then there's foam pads in 5 spots to keep it from scratching up your table. So that's nice. There's some lightning holes there. And does this slide in? There's no tongue and groove, it literally just plops in. So the short screw is going to grab this front end. Okay, we'll tighten that a little later. And then it's asking for the longer screw. I don't know, it's supposed to be a medium length screw. I don't know what do you guys think? See, this looks exceptionally long compared to that first screw I put in. But then this also has like a long screw. So we don't know what to do. Maybe we should do the handle first. So here we have the lock thing here. This is interesting. If this is the handle, oh, the handle goes up here. Alright, so that's to move the thing up and down. It wouldn't hurt to have this Loctited as well. I'm just using medium strength Loctite. Thread lock, if you want to call it, non-brand. Look at this, this is nice. There's a little carbon fiber insert in here. And that's blocking, I guess, these shafts and the springs from flying outwards. Maybe that's how they assembled it. This is really classy. It's such a tight fit. Very cool. Alright, so while we're at it, these 2 springs, you can overcome them with 1 finger, but they have enough, power. You can easily whip back the drill and all that. Alright, so then I'm assuming this long screw must go here. But is there a chamfer? There's a brass insert there. I see. The instructions are saying this screw goes through here. Oh, it literally is threaded also. So you're going to need that tool again. I guess if you don't want that to unthread, just a little drop there. Alright, so that is now a long handle. And now this, you don't want to Loctite, I don't think, because you want to add and remove the drill bit occasionally, right? The actual drill, so that tightens and loosens it. Alright, we'll leave that as it is. So then yes, the last screw is meant to hold that second hole in the vertical stand. So I feel like the instructions, they should have made those 2 screws the same length. Or maybe in the past they had a longer one, but for some reason I just got a short one. Alright, so now I'm going to tighten this down. Doesn't have to be super tight. Since I have thread lock, you don't want to strip the hole. It's just 2 finger tight. I don't think that's going to undo itself. Alright, so how much does this little thing weigh? So 240 grams. And then if for some reason you want to travel with this thing, yeah, I don't know who would, but maybe for a big RC meet or something. This is like 100 millimeters in width. The actual length of this thing is about 137, 136. Height-wise, like 140-ish. Alright, so quite portable, very small. I'll put this away here for now. Let's take a look at this thing now. So you can see millimeter measurements here. It's going 0, positive and negative, but it rests always at the top, so I don't know what the deal is with that. Why? Oh, unless this thing moves up and down. Yes, there's a track in here. You see? I think you can see the hollowness there. And so this is plastic back here. I'm actually surprised that that's not aluminum like a lot of the other stuff, but this is actually plastic as well, but this has to flex, so I understand that. But anyways, unscrew that, and now can I slide this up? Yes, I can. So now that makes a lot more sense. Okay. Pretty easy to tighten such a big diameter, and there's a brass insert in this plastic piece as well. Now you can see these divots, I guess you would call it. So there could be a ball pin. Ball. I think maybe you could see in here where my, let me get the flashlight. There's a ball right there. So it's resting in one of those crevices. So I'd have to assume these divots are a certain logical degree apart from another one. So now I have to unscrew this more. But not so much. You don't have to push it, you just rotate it. You don't have to push it that way. You can hear it clicking, right? What's unfortunate is there's nothing saying what angle this is, right? It would have been cool if maybe somehow they printed 5 degree, 5, 10, you know, whatever degree increments these are, right? I really don't know. Yeah. Or like they actually laser etched this white line here. Maybe this round thing they could have rastered the numbers on this circle and then have a line on here to mark where you are on that circle. That would have been an easy thing to do, but didn't happen. Anyhow, you're gonna have to just guess it or get a protractor or an angle finder and to work with it there. But it's really nice, the ball detent. It's very satisfying to click. Very cool. Alright, let's leave that vertical for now. Yeah, this is really, really impressive. I think these will actually hold drill bits. You can see there's also, after the black anodization, they went and chamfered this after the fact. So you can see this super polished edge from the machining. All the corners are knocked down with the chamfer around the whole thing, right? And it's so super smooth, the chamfering. So they used a really good CNC programming to make that such a smooth mirror finish. Very impressive. It's actually going around the whole thing, right? You can see the light catching in there. Okay, so I do notice now we have a groove here, and it looks like it would have some sort of bolt to adjust back and forth. And then we have 0, plus 40, minus 40, whichever you want to call it. And that's the center where the drill thing would go. And you could just bolt this down to a table through these two holes. I'm not sure what those lightning holes, if they're meant to hold anything or not. But let's get a thick one here. So you can see, you can just stick your really common size bits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You can hold 12 drill bits in this thing. So you don't have to fiddle around with that box that this thing came with. And so this thing came with 10 bits. Maybe later I'll put those there. Let's see about the vise. Alright, so now we do have 2 magnets on this. I assume they're the right polarity with the base. Yes. So that's very smart. Right, it's just easy. You can still move it around. I'm not sure if it would make sense to move it around. I guess so. It's just easier. But I almost feel like maybe it would have made sense if this has the magnets and this just had a steel plate. Because the magnets are trying to attract each other. Let me see if this is really a magnet. Yeah, it is magnetic. Yeah, if this whole thing was just a steel plate, then I could rest this pretty much anywhere without the magnets trying to suck it to the middle. See? Watch. The magnet's always trying to suck it over itself. but that might not be what you want. Alright, but the base of the vise pretty much matches the size of the base of the stand. And now let's see what's going on. Here we have the same plastic handle. You'll notice it's a circlip to keep it from falling off. Was that the case here? There's no circlip on this one. Interesting. So you can unscrew that one fully. But this one, I guess, is there because this is a double direction vise. Alright, so that's very cool. It would have been neat if they maybe laser rastered a line here, right in the middle, so you know you're trying to line up you know, your objects around there. I guess it would self-center itself though, as long as you don't take this apart. Yeah, it should. Those are probably, you know, right in the middle. Okay, so this is nicely sandblasted. The black one, I guess is lightly sandblasted. And then what's going on here? There's a lot of threaded holes here in the side, and then also on the top. There's also some grooves here, and then a bunch of lightning holes, which is nice again. So how much does this weigh? 18.5. And then let's see, the base, the thickness of the base is around 22 millimeters. From that base to the surface of this thing, it's around 20 millimeters. But essentially your drill bit most likely might be landing home around 42 millimeters from the surface of that stand. With all these accessories, 221. With the stand and accessories, 462. With the case, basically everything, if you want to travel with this thing, weighs 668 grams. So under 700 grams for the whole setup. Alright, now let's see what's in this bag. Boy, it's a long video again. Long video. Alright, so you have some plastic jaws so you don't scratch up your models. This is being, you know, aluminum. But what's nice about this is the V channels. So you could put tubes vertically in 3 spots, or a tube horizontally in this channel here. This same thing, one vertical, or let's see here. Yeah, okay, so you can screw it in to 4 spots if you want. And obviously you have the left and right. I'll probably end up doing that later, but let's see what else is in this bag. Alright, so now you have these cylindrical things, and they are chamfered on one side for these chamfered bolts. And so the intention of this is now to hold oddly shaped objects. Right, so you could put, you know, some sort of random model, like something with curvature, and clamp curved objects using these curved ones here. So there's 4 of those, naturally, and then there's also 4 straight shaft ones, which, yeah, I guess is still helpful. You know what actually would have been really smart is if they used these jaws and designed them like these jaws here, right? Then you could, you know, still clamp it, but you could just move these pins around. That would have been much smarter. I wonder, no, it's not the same thread. That's a much bigger diameter than that one. So if for some random reason ARROWMAX should run into this video, it would be a lot cooler if you had jaws like this, but still with all these features. It's just that over here, maybe you have some extra holes that are just straight shafts, and you have the steel pins that you could easily relocate. So then you could put really oddly shaped objects in here. That's why, you know, these things are designed the way they are. It looks like we have 3 magnets, or no, they're not. I don't know. They're not magnetic. They're just 3 3 metal cylindrical objects. I almost wonder why there aren't 4. So what are those for? Oh, look at this. For some reason, it wants to fit in here. Oh, wait a second. There's a magnet here. Yeah, that's a magnet. So that's what's magnetizing these in. Now, I'm thinking quick alignment with the 3 holes down here. Yep, that's it. That's smart. That's wicked smart. So they're trapped in there. They're not going to fall out because they're trapped in that upper vise. So now it's perfectly aligned all the time. But it's very quick to just remove those, and then you can just drag the whole vise by hand. I guess theoretically you could just get away with 2 to align it if 3 gets too annoying to deal with. Alright, so yeah, that's still aligned. That's really smartly designed. But yeah, again, you can still, hold it in place if it's a light enough object. Again, it's not meant for heavy drilling, so I think just holding with your fingers, you'll probably be okay. So they only give you 4 of the short ones to hold these jaws on, so if you want to really secure, you're going to have to go and order some more of these. So the overall length of this is around 8 millimeters, and then the diameter is a 3 millimeter metric. Okay, so I'm going to just put these here, of course. And they're countersunk, so I'm assuming you'd have some models that want to sit flush with this plastic surface. Although I gotta say, the bolt heads are not totally flush. At least not yet. Let's see if I can get them flush without thinking I'm going to crack the plastic. No, I don't think you can. That's pretty tight. Any tighter than that, I think I'm going to start deforming the plastic. But you can see there's a little bit of a lip there. It's almost like the countersink should have been deeper, so these could sit totally underneath or at least flush with this plastic surface. So that could have been improved upon, unfortunately. I guess you could just do it yourself with a chamfer bit, but just going to continue on. So yeah, they only give you 4 of these long ones as well for the cylindrical things. So the overall length is around 20 millimeters, and again, M3. So you could, use some of these side holes here. So yeah, that's versatile. You can clamp something really tall or something right here. Get that. You can get all that extra height back, by clamping it on the side. So it probably wasn't the original intention, but you could actually stack this right through, and you'll get a few threads to go into this aluminum. Yeah, if you bought some extra long bolts, then you could just literally thread these right through the plastic jaws that I have below, right, like so. So right now I basically can hold it with the flat, that vertical there, this vertical here, this horizontal here, right? So I have 3 points of, and that horizontal for a tube there. So that's very versatile. If I move these to the middle, I could also put the straight cylinders over here and here, but you'll have to, again, you got to buy some more bolts. So I read off the dimensions. But if you want these to work better, you want to maybe get an extra 5 millimeter long ones, so they go through this plastic. In fact, here, really it should be an extra, 5 millimeters would probably be alright. It's 4. Alright, so I'm messing around with this, trying to get everything on here. First, you'll notice these are splayed out, and the reason why is the plastic is a little bit wider than the aluminum. I'm sure that's on purpose so you don't accidentally scratch your model, but if you want these things to sit parallel, you're going to have to sand down the plastic so it's at this level or even a little bit inset of it. But on this side, I chose to use nylon nuts as spacers, and now they're parallel, but you have to use longer bolts. So I do want to explain something going on in here. I got these longer bolts here that happen to be, let's see, 25 millimeter long M3 bolts. And let me undo this here. I want to show you the hole. If you use this bolt, it will go all the way down through this hole and it'll start destroying the thread inside this hole. So that is why I used these little aluminum spacers, and in this case these spacers are 2 millimeters. Ideally you might be buy 1 millimeter ones, but for some reasons using this bolt, which is 5 millimeters longer than the standard one, it's just too far, right? I don't want to destroy those threads, so that's why I spaced all these top ones with the 2 millimeter spacer, and now it's not touching the bottom of that hole. Also, you know, you're gonna have to, you know, factor in that if that bolt does go through that hole even a little bit, eventually this side bolt is going to stop where this bolt is, which isn't a big issue. Yeah, so yeah, this one, maybe I'll just go back to a longer one and use the spacer. In fact, I guess I could just do it right now and show you. That way they'll be parallel. So we lose the stock one, jam in this longer one. Oh wait, that one's way too long. Hold on. I need to find some other solution for this one. Maybe it's this. Pretty much what I did above. That spacer now sitting in that flattened area. Nope, still too long. Now I might have to actually use another nut over here. The one nice thing about having the nut on the other side of the bolt head is now I can just unscrew this whole thing. I don't have to use a tool anymore. So here, I'm using plastic nuts so I don't scratch off the anodization. So that's one advantage of using the nuts. And now you can see it is parallel because it's not touching this black surface, which is higher than the aluminum. Hopefully that all makes sense. Maybe you can see the ledge there on the plastic. Alright, I'm back again. I ended up taking my sonic cutter and shaving that plastic down because with the nut as a spacer, you'll notice here there's a little bit of wobble. So that gets, you know, exaggerated the further away you get, right? So as close, you want to get these things as close to this surface as possible. So I instead now had to have an M3 nut on this side, and then this one is actually the stock length one, I believe. It's just I changed over to stainless just because it looks cooler. Of course, you could just avoid all this if you take the time to Dremel down or grind down the actual bolts. But you'll have to get slightly longer ones, maybe 5 millimeter longer than the standard ones. So the standard ones again are like 20 millimeters, 25 at the most. Ideally, something shorter than that, but I don't know if they come in increments that aren't 25 and 20. Okay, so that's a lot of delaying. It took me like over an hour to do that, but to you it means nothing. Alright, so let's just do that vise thing a little later. The drill, that's the main thing, right? Well, I should have charged it more, but hold the power button down. Finally, let's get to some drilling here. I was trying to hit this button repeatedly because most people stereotype that slash with a circle as the power button, but it is not the power button. That is the power button. So that could have been easily designed better, right? This is a universal icon nowadays, right? As a power, but it's not. So this does nothing. So just hold that. Now it's 500. You'll notice there's arrows, so it's spinning in a clockwise rotation, meaning it would actually, a little drill icon there is kind of neat. And so if you want to reverse it, Well, first speed 7, 8. You can hear the pitch change. Oh, okay, so it's the power button that changes the direction. Okay, so it stops and now it's going backwards, right? So if you ever, the good thing about that is with these really small bits, just trying to get, once it gets stuck, I very often break them trying to pull them out. But this hopefully will keep, the reverse will hopefully allow me to back out the really thin bits without breaking them. Okay, so being a hobby related drill, I think a lot of people are going to be drilling plastic. Here's a cracked display case. Warning, I bought 6 of these off AliExpress. 5 of the 6 from 2 different sellers broken. I got my money back, but it's just stupid that these people wouldn't box them. They literally ship them in bags. Anyways, so turn this on. 1, 2, 3-ish. Let's see the 500 RPM. This is a... Yeah, it's slow, which is actually what you want when you're doing a hobby related item. You don't want to blast through the thing and totally destroy it. This is a really hard plastic also. Okay. Alright, so that was, at 500. So I'm going to just jump up to 900. It kind of wanted to wander there, but it did finally settle in. And as you can see, I'm not applying too much pressure. I'm just letting the drill bit do the work. Okay, so it obviously works on plastic. Let's try to find a curved piece of model. Alright, so when it's stopped, this thing doesn't just spin. For some reason the motor locks itself up, and so the reason is you can undo the chuck. Alright, so that didn't take too much effort. You don't need to unscrew the whole chuck, you just need to loosen it like a quarter, half turn, and the thing will come out. I'm going to try a really thin one. Oh boy, I hope I don't break this. Maybe I should do this with the actual... You know what, I'm going to wait till I put that into the actual stand so I don't break that bit so quickly. But let's jump up to this big 2.2 millimeter, and we'll try to go through a curved surface here. Alright. So power on is way back here, and I'm going to just start on this radius. Yeah, see, it's wandering. That's not the fault of the bit. You should really have a pilot hole or some sort of marker. You can use like a needle and heat it up with a lighter to just put a divot into the plastic. Anyways, alright, so it works fine, obviously, on model plastic. It's a drill after all. I have this little wood. I'm quite sure someone might want to drill into wood. Yep. This is actually a cutting board, so it's a pretty dense wood. And you can see, well, let me do it sideways so you can see me push this thing. Yeah, so it works pretty well, right? That's a strong bit, so I can put some force behind it, and it's doing fine. That's at 900. So I did notice, is there a little wobble there? It's, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it is spinning straight. I'm just trying to look at the tip there. I guess it is pretty straight. Never mind. Might be an optical illusion or something. Here's a piece of thick copper. I think it'll take a long time with this really big bit, so I'm going to drop down to a smaller bit again that is somewhat strong, so a 1.4. So it's very easy to add or remove the bits. That chuck is very good, even though that's a small thing. It's quite grippy, the knurling on that thing. So maybe, I mean, you could start with a slow speed just to start a pilot hole. And then once, no, see, it's wandering all over this thing. eventually I will find it'll rest somewhere. Okay, so now it's digging in. Usually with metals you want to have like a drop of oil in there, and that'll cool it down and prevent the drill bit from getting dull. Yeah, so it's definitely working. I don't think I'm going to continue on. You can clearly see it's put a hole in there, so I don't want to ruin this bit. I'm primarily bought it just for plastic. All right, so I gotta say it's I like the slow speed of it. Prior to this, I was using the Tamiya handy drill, which I still recommend because these are quite cheap. I think it's kind of like a model kit, and you'll just have to find them in your own country. But it's very slow, and so that's very good for delicate drilling. And they run off AA batteries. I have some rechargeables in this one. So, and you can change the collets out as well. So these are standard machining bits here. But this is a right angle hold, which it kind of works, but I feel like you have a little more control with a pen, right? And pleasantly, you're pretty close to the actual object that you're drilling. So the distance is, the really small 0.6, the distance is around probably 8 millimeters. And then the longest version, the distance is around 1 inch or 25 millimeters, somewhere in that ballpark. But with the actual collet and the spacer, it's going to add, I would say it's going to add like 12 millimeters. So for this, for instance, for this drill bit here, where I'm holding and where the distance is, where it touches, is like 40 millimeters. So obviously the further away, the less control you have. I almost wish that maybe some of these bits were shorter so you could have even more control. Or somehow maybe if they move the collet back here somehow, like literally inset, then that would be an interesting design that would allow very precise control. If your finger was as close to this tip as possible, you could do a lot more controlled work. Alright, so that's drilling. I already thought about what could it grind, but I have a suspicion it will not. 900 RPM isn't that fast, but let's try. So I went ahead and just ordered these off AliExpress as well. It says 332. I guess that's the equivalent of the millimeter measurement. So this is a kind of a medium thread, a medium coarseness. And so this is now kind of far away. If this does work, I'm going to cut that down so I have more control. Let's just do it on this wood here. At 500. Well, you know what? It actually does work. It's interesting. I kind of wish it would remember the last speed you used. So it would be very time consuming, but it would work. You'll notice as it just rests, it's not dangerous, like say a Dremel. A Dremel would scare me if it was on and touching the ground. Let's get back to that piece of plastic and see if we can carve out with this thing. Okay, well, you can actually use this to modify model kits pretty well. It's just going to take time. But it's very controllable. I don't think it's going to accidentally hop and do that and scratch your model, because at least with this grit of a bit, it doesn't want to do this so much like a Dremel would at a super high speed. So everything, I guess, is a compromise. Let's turn that off. I'm going to put in a different coarseness. Let's try, I think maybe this green is the coarsest one. this big green cylinder. Let's see, it's a weird description. So, oh, you know what? Now it did start at 900. It did remember the last speed rating. Oh, but now this grit, it grabs and it'll totally destroy your model if you're not careful. Especially with a cylinder, because if it grabs too much of it at once, it's going to jump out and crawl over your model. But if you take a little bit off at a time, right? So that definitely is fine. That works great. I was expecting it to not work because it's so slow, but that slowness is allowing it very good control. Now this is a fine version, much finer tooth rating, right? So I don't think this will grab the plastic and jump out like the last one. But I could be wrong, I'm always wrong. So back at 900, remember the last setting. Oh, look at that. See, I'm wrong. It did jump out. But this is at 900. I guess I could slow it down. Well, let's try it after though. Alright, so that obviously works fine. I'm going to slow it down to 500. Yeah, I guess it could still grab and jump out. But I guess if you're with enough experience, no, it definitely jumped out there, and I didn't want it to. Moderately smooth finish there. Okay. Yeah, well, with the crosscut bits like this, I guess you could go reverse. Let me try that. I've never done that. Okay, it's now in reverse, but this seems dangerous because now that bit's going to come towards you. See, if it hops out, it might force the bit into your hand, or it might literally cut you. I don't think this is a wise direction. If I push against, yeah, this is really counterintuitive to me. Not for me. But you have the option. Maybe if you're a lefty? Yeah, if you're a lefty, that would make sense, right? Because it would then roll away from you. So I guess it's an ambidextrous grinder, as long as you have cross-cut grinding bits. So naturally, you could use polishing bits, sandpaper bits. It's just going to be a little bit slow. Slow and steady. Alright. So let's see what this drill press stand is all about. So we just slide this in here. You can slide it in with the bit. You tighten that thing down. The plastic flexes. Still loose. Now it's still a little loose. Try to see. There's still a gap there. I guess you would know when you look at when that gap is closed, but alright, so I guess that should be tight enough. Alright. So naturally, if this thing was in the totally down position, I'm curious, will it... I don't know if it would go through my table or not. Oh, that's not smart, right? I guess it depends on the length of the drill bit, but be careful. It is possible you would damage the surface you're working on. Okay, so now we know. So I'm probably always gonna just leave it in the up position and then, default it to the up position. All right, Mr. Vise time. Let's see here. This is nice and easy. If this was metal though, then it would have more mass, and you could flick it once, and the whole thing would probably open in one flick. But because it's plastic, doesn't have as much mass to it. I guess you could glue a bunch of metal to it, like a giant thick washer to it. I might do that later. Okay, but it does feel really nice and smooth doing that. So let's just see about these little pegs. What's the best way to clamp this funky thing? I don't care about this models. No, it's not even a model, it's just random junk. So it's always hard to drill on a curved surface like this. Or maybe like this. Alright, you know what? This is going to work. We're going to just do it with that. So I am going to move that back. I can't really reach it, but I want you to see the whole thing. Turn this on. It's at 500. It's in the drilling direction, clockwise that is. I push this little handle down. I'm not pushing much. I don't want to break the bit. I'm just slow amount of effort here, just so it gets started. It'll get better once it, you know, gets its groove on. Oh, but now I dropped it out. It would have obviously gone through had I not let go, and if I properly clamped it. So now I'm curious, and this is probably a very bad habit. This is probably not smart to do. Just do it freehand. Obviously, don't have your fingers underneath where this drill bit's going to end up. Alright, I gotta say, because that's so slow, that was probably all out of focus, wasn't it? You know what, I am gonna have to go in closer because you really can't see what I'm doing. You'll notice these LEDs, so that's nice. Little lights there. Alright, so just freehanding it. Hit focus, come on. There we go. Wow. You know what? I actually would say that's actually relatively safe to do, because it's spinning only at 500 and I'm only drilling through plastic. I don't get any impression that this is going to tear the product and whip it into my face like a real drill press would do. I feel like this is actually doable as a freehand item. And so that's why I guess you can buy this drill without the stand in its first place. The stand is really just to, you know, make sure your drill holes are perfectly aligned. So going back to this. So when drilling, whether on a real drill press or this, I've always been taught you want to have the drill start as close to the object as possible. And for this I do have to agree, because look, being a plastic mount, you can actually flex it a little bit. See? There's a little bit of flex in this. I wish this mount was made of metal and somehow they figured out a way to clamp it properly. Yeah, so that's unfortunate. But, and also what's weird is this is not even vertical. You see, this thing is actually at an angle. So what is that all about? That makes no sense, right? Looking in there if there's some extra molding flash or something like that. And so if it was vertical, it would be over the middle of this vise. This wheel is centered in that groove of the vise, and this is centered on the base. So I'm basically drilling a slightly off angle hole. So I'm gonna pull that out, and I'm gonna show you the thing is mounted in that groove, right? So it should have been perfectly centered. But that hole, it wasn't vertical. So here's my digital inclinometer. This table is level right here, right? It's 0 degrees. This is around 1 degree off. Alright, I got a solution if you should happen to buy this and your thing is off at an angle as well. First, I tried to shim it with some washers, and that did work. But I also realized that very often this would be crooked sideways, not only front ways, because of this. There's a little bit of play, so you can actually, if you're not careful with this, it'll be a little off center. So what I did is I centered it at 0 here, and then I took those plastic things off because metal is more precise, right? And I just have an aluminum standoff. This is a 3mm standoff. Ideally it'd be a smaller hole, but it's all I had right now available. So I clamped that in here, obviously, and then I took this heat gun. This is a really cheap heat gun. If I can find a link, I will for you. And I just held it, you know, here and then here, where it's basically, I'm basically warping it right here, these two plates. You don't want to do it down here, it makes no difference, right? It's only this here. And you gotta be careful with heat guns. You can't hold it there for too long because it'll literally melt the plastic. You're not trying to melt the plastic, you're just trying to make it pliable enough to bend it into shape, and then it'll cool off, hopefully straight. So to rough it in, you could actually literally heat it up, jam it in here, and then lock it in place, and it'll cool down inside of that aluminum tube, and it'll help align it, right? But because I have a little bit of a gap here in the tube opening itself, I just did it by eye afterwards. But to rough it in, yeah, you could just do that, and then you can heat it up and let it cool off, and it'll be a lot better than it was before. So now, luckily, my vise is pretty well centered. Actually, maybe I have to bring it back out now. Now it's actually a little bit inwards, but it's better than it was before. That is for sure. It's bottoming out against something there, but okay, and it's definitely not sideways. Before it was a little bit off to the side, so that's the easy solution. I'm gonna still try to contact this brand because everything else is so fantastic. If they just switched this thing to CNC aluminum, it wouldn't be an issue, right? Because you have steel guide rods. They would just need to have some sort of clamp in that aluminum bit, you know, to keep this thing tight. One way to do it is to actually have an aluminum block that you screw, and that block presses up against the body of this, just like the clamp of a bicycle seat post. This is actually similar to one as well, but possibly this flexing would also misalign it. But if it was metal, it wouldn't be an issue. Alright, so that's my solution for you guys. All in all, I would say the drill itself is fantastic. It's not really meant to be a grinder. They do make a grinder called the SDS, and I might pick it up, even though I do have a bunch of grinders already. But I might pick it up. Just because this drill is so well designed, the clamp is pretty good, and yeah, the only thing wrong again is that. Alright, so hopefully that'll help you make a decision whether or not you want to get this thing or not. At minimum, I would say the drill is fantastic again. Alright, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next model tool video. Bye.